Hey, it's Nikki. Before we start the show, I wanted to invite you to download a free resource that I put together for you as the listener. This is my gift to you. You can get it right now. It is the 17 buying signals. Now, I wrote a whole book about buying signals, and I wanted to put it into a really simple format that you can have at your fingertips or in front of you whenever you want to. So I took out the 17 buying signals from the book, put them on a simple PDF, also gave you the kind of what to do when you get a buying signal, and explain what a buying signal is. So that PDF is available for you as a listener to go and download right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/17. That's yoursalesmaven.com/17 so that you can start acting on these buying signals and closing more business. All right, when you're ready, let's start the show.
Do sales conversations make you feel awkward or pushy? It's time to ditch the outdated salesy strategies. Your guide, Nikki Roush, will show you how to combine kindness with selling skills to meet your prospects where they are, and in the process, how to up-level your influence and income. Learn how to earn business easily and effortlessly. Here's Nikki.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Roush. Today's episode is part of the Mastering Excellence series. This is the concept that comes from my background in neuro-linguistic programming, where we learn that there is a structure to excellence. And once you understand the structure behind a particular topic, you can apply that structure to your life and business and get similar results. So this is about talking to experts who have figured out the structure. And I'm super excited that today's guest is Hailey Rowe. Now, if you don't know Hailey, let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a marketing and sales coach and strategist. She helps health, life, and mindset coaches and women business owners get clients consistently, develop their no-brainer offers, and grow their income and impact. She shares her FAST, F-A-S-T framework, marketing and business tips in her Health Coach Nation podcast and in her Health Coach Nation Facebook group, which is, you can find it under Health Coach Nation on Facebook. Hailey also offers LinkedIn lead generation if you're looking to increase your numbers and discovery calls and clients. Since 2010, Hailey has worked in the coaching industry as well as in business development and marketing for several wellness companies and startups. She's also a certified behavioral change specialist and human potential coach. Hailey's philosophy: you can have an amazing service and impact to make, but without a strong mindset and sales and marketing plan, your business will remain a hobby. This girl speaks my language. Hailey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. And particularly to dig into this topic today, we are going to talk about facing rejection, and not only facing rejection, but without it derailing you and causing you to give up on what it is that you're going to do or what you want to accomplish. Tell us a little bit. Now, I'm going to go into some specific questions, but tell us a little bit about if you have any kind of story or something that makes you go this is why I wanted to talk about this topic.
Yeah. So I guess there's many stories, but I would say that one of the things I see in my clients a lot of the time is they're so afraid of putting themselves out there and being able to get a no or rejection from someone or something that they don't ever take the shot. And to me, I think that's the biggest dagger in my heart, because I'm that is the thing that's going to get you further along and learning about yourself and personal growth and new opportunities. And I grew up auditioning for shows and commercials and singing gigs. And I sang in a wedding band every weekend for a couple years. And so I know what it's like to have to put yourself out there and get a no, or get a no response even, because so many auditions would just ghost you.
Yeah.
And so I got very used to not needing other people's validation for me to feel good about myself. And so I've been able to come to a place where I can take those shots without making a no mean something personal, or something that I have to take 4 days off from business to, regroup myself. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have feelings.
Yeah, of course.
And I allow feelings to be processed, but it does mean that I see it as a separate thing. And I really, try to separate that from like anything about my identity or my worthiness or anything like that.
Yes. Yes. Can I share a quick story with you?
Of course.
About rejection? That it was something you just said and it made me think of, and I probably have told this story on the podcast before, but one time I was talking to a girlfriend of mine and she was interviewing for a sales position. She didn't have a ton of sales background. So she was like, I want to pick your brain, Nikki, and ask you like, what kind of thing should I be, talking about in this interview so that I'll sound, more like I know, some sales kind of strategy. And so she's asking me these questions. And then she says, Nikki, one of the things that makes you really good about sales. So I feel like, ooh, a compliment's coming and I love a compliment. So I was like, what do you think makes me good in sales? And she's like, you are so good at being rejected. And I was like, what? Like it stopped me in my tracks. I was actually driving at the time and I started to pull to the side of the road because I was like, wait, what do you mean by that? Like, who's rejecting me? What are you talking? Like, I was so shocked. So and then she's like, when people tell you no, like if you get a no in a sales opportunity, like you never take it personal. I was like, oh, you think a no is rejection? Oh yeah, I have a different philosophy than that. But it was just funny that she used that, like, you're so good at rejection, which makes you good at sales. Yes. And I was like, what?
That's so funny. I had a similar situation with Facebook Lives. Somebody was like, you know what? You give me the confidence to go out there and do lives and stuff because I see that you mess up a lot in your lives. And so it makes me realize I can go out there and mess up too. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because that's true. Sometimes I'll be on a rant and then I'll forget what I was saying. I have to like revert back. So I understand when those compliments come in that are like, wait a minute. Oh.
I have somebody in my life that used to she would say, that's a CompuSalt. Like it sounds like a compliment, but it's really not. I feel like that was a CompuSalt you got. And it's those moments like, I know the person's intention is to be like, to give you a compliment, but you're like, I don't think that feels like a compliment.
Right.
I love that you told that story. Thank you for telling it. Okay. So we're going to dive into these questions here and just kind of see where it goes. My first question is, if I got to stand in for you for a day, so I get to be Hailey for the day, how would I have to behave in order to set myself up to be able to face rejection without it derailing me?
Wow, that is a deep question.
I know it's a big question.
Okay. So I think one of the main things, the first thing that came to my mind is on my phone, I have what I call like a belief list. And it's things that I have either heard on podcasts or in books or even came up with myself or heard from the manifesting world, and things that I wrote down that I want to embody and believe as my philosophy and work towards as something that's kind of innate within me. And so I'll put down things like, I like if I fail more than you, I win. That's one of the things currently that I just freaking love. I love reading that every day. And that makes me embrace failure and getting no's, because if you don't embrace that, you're not going to get any results in your business. What I mean by that is I see no's and yeses as results. And if you have results to look at, you can keep refining and improving and getting further, compared with if you never try anything to know if it works or not, you're getting nowhere. And a lot of times people just upfront decide not to do anything and get no results and think that that's more comfortable because they can avoid getting rejected from somebody else. But in my opinion, they're rejecting themselves upfront from just even trying anything. So just to give you an example, that's one of the things on my list. I think there's so many on there, but I read that in the morning and I sometimes ask myself each morning, like, what do I want to believe today? What would the best version of myself look like today? And also, I think the other thing that's key is when I go into my discovery calls, kind of like you, Nikki, because we just talked about this on my podcast, the Health Coach Nisha Show. You were saying how you see sales as curiosity and working with somebody. And so for me, I have the same view going into a sales call rather than seeing a no as like, oh my gosh, it's rejection or whatever. I'm more like, I'm dedicated to helping this person find some kind of solve. And maybe it's going to be with me and maybe it's not. But I really want to see what all of our options are, lay it all out on the table. My job is to be direct with them and hold space and hear what they have to say and see what I can do or not do. And like, that's the philosophy I have going in. So I think that's another key thing. And then I think the other thing is acknowledging your wins. So I track, going back to that results thing, I track those and I see all of them as wins, even the no's. And I track what's working in my business and what's exciting me in my business, because otherwise I think we can get into that like rejection mode where it's like, oh man, I'm just, failing a lot and there's no wins to go with it. And you're not paying attention. You're focusing on all the things that are wrong instead of also what's right and how far have you come and the gains that you've had so far. So I do keep track of that, partly because I have really bad memory and I want to remember my life, and partly because I want to keep train my brain to focus on the wins and, all of it. And then the last thing I'd say, and I don't even remember the original question, so
You're doing so good. Keep going. The
last thing is I like to get value from everything. I absorb value from everything, even if it's a boring conversation, even if, like yesterday, I had a call with somebody who was not a fit for my program. I kind of couldn't understand what they're saying because their audio was just terrible. And I was like, oh man, like this is frustrating. I feel like I'm wasting my time. I kind of got down that like rabbit hole. And no offense to the person, but I couldn't help with it was just not a good fit. And so I was like, but what happened? I was like, why did that happen today? I realized because I was trying to show this person my website because they were asking a specific question. And my website went down for a couple of hours because I had to approve or confirm some email address or something and work this thing out. I wouldn't have known that my website was down if I didn't have that call. So notice I try to connect a value to everything. I was like, oh my God, that was so important. I had that call because I wouldn't have pulled up my website. I wouldn't realize it was down. And then I wouldn't have called the company and fixed it and got it back up. So I just love looking for that every single day.
Okay. That was one of the best answers to that question that I've ever asked, I want to say. And I want to recap a couple things, and please correct me if I say anything that doesn't feel in alignment with what you said. But for you, the listener, I feel like Hailey just gave us a masterclass here, and she broke it down just in this first question. So I wrote down a bunch of stuff. I'm hoping you're taking notes too of what she's writing or what she's saying to us. But the first thing she does to really be able to not have to fear rejection, or when she has rejection, not letting it derail her, is one, she's already prepped herself because she has this belief list, and she can go through this belief list and keep her mindset in that right kind of frame of mind, which I think is super incredible. And then the second thing that I kind of circled here is that she has a structure around tracking her results, and she considers yeses and nos results. And without those results, how is she going to know how she's doing? So to me, and I think you even referenced this is about being curious. And I think you said your favorite quote, or you're like, if I get more rejections than you, I win. Right? Because she's putting herself out there and she's able to track these results. So to me, that's also a way to kind of distance yourself from making it personal. It's like, it's data. It's information. Yeah. That's so, so good. The third thing that I heard you mention, or at least that I wrote down as the third thing, was that she's training her brain to acknowledge her wins. It's so easy to acknowledge losses. It's so easy to acknowledge failures, but that when you start to train your brain and really acknowledge your wins, then I think that also keeps you in the right frame of mind and moving forward. And then the fourth thing is that you look for value in everything that happens, every experience. So your story about that you wouldn't have known that your website was down had you not had this conversation that, some of us might have gone like, oh, what a waste of time. But you're like, thank goodness I had this conversation because now I know my website's got a problem. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. I do have more questions for you, but that was so good.
Thank you. I'm so
okay. Glad. So my next question is, what are your goals when it comes to being able to face rejection without it derailing you. And you might feel like you've already answered that, and that's okay. But I'm just wondering, are there any specific goals that you have?
Yeah. So again, I'm such a tracker, and this is going to go back to my tracking thing.
I love tracking.
I like to have a little list of dares for myself, and it keeps me doing scary things that I don't want to do. And it keeps me, I'm not attached to the outcome. So going to your question about how do you kind of make sure that you don't go down a rabbit hole with rejection, I detach from the outcome. I attach to what, am I putting myself kind of in harm's way sometimes? Because again, that way I'm going to either get a yes or a no, but at least I'll know and I'll keep moving forward and keep adapting. So I would say that. And then I would also say in the beginning, I kind of had to have almost like a protocol. I call it your rejection ritual. So in the beginning, I would get really I loved talking to that person. I really wanted to work with them, that kind of thing. And I had to have a ritual for myself if I got sad about something like that, to just kind of become the observer and come back to myself. And so sometimes it would be a walk, or sometimes it would be, I'm going to take a break from business for a bit and go take a bath and go get myself back together. But that was important for me in the beginning. Nowadays, what's so interesting is you start to things that used to take you 2 hours or 5 days or a week that was weighing on you heavily. It becomes this thing where it's 2 minutes. And then I'm okay, on to the next thing. So, and it's not that I do care greatly. I want to help as many people as I can. I want to work with my clients. I love my clients, that I care deeply about. But when it comes to sales and rejection and making a pitch for something or whatever, that's where I'm okay, 2 minutes, it literally could take 2 minutes. And then I'm on to the next thing. So yeah, I hope that answers it a little bit.
Yeah, that was so good. So you have your goal is that you have this list of dares, that you're pushing yourself to do things that even kind of scare you a little bit. And I love that you talked about detaching from your outcome. There's I think this is a Buddhist thing where they say the root of all suffering is attachment. So learning how to not be attached to an outcome like a sale or whatever, then I think you are able to be more resilient with rejection in those moments. So I love this idea.
And way less weird too on a sales call. Because if you're super attached to the sale, you're going to kind of act creepy and weird. Or if you're I really want this person to love me. Are you loving me? Am I doing a good job with these questions? That's creepy and weird. So I think that's a big one. And then there was one other thing. I set a goal. This is a huge one for me. I love doing this. I set a goal, but what most people do is when something doesn't go a certain way they thought, that's where suffering comes up, like you said, with the Buddhist quote. Anytime we have an outcome we thought was going to go a certain way, and we thought it was going to go faster, or we thought it was going to happen within a certain timeline, we then use that sometimes as a reason to feel bad and suffer. And so for me, I like to set a goal. And yes, I have a certain timeline I'd like to achieve it in, but I'm going to reach the goal no matter what. It just might not be in the timeline I thought. So the willingness to try different things, pivot as many times as it takes until you hit the goal, even if it's not on the timeline you want. And that's really helped me not get discouraged. And it's also helped me realize that no, or that rejection was just one of the steps on the path to working until you get that goal.
I love that. It's I feel like there's a saying, but now I can't think of how it's when you know where you're going, and I'm not going to say this right, but it's you don't change the goal. You just reset and keep moving from where you are. So even if you get some steps back, I know I'm not saying that there is a quote. I'm not even close to what it is that what the quote is, but it's this idea that you don't get derailed, that you just keep moving in that direction.
You recommit as many times as it takes until you hit the goal.
Yeah. I love that. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Okay. So how do you know you're achieving your goals? This, like some of these goals that you've said here about detaching, like, how do you know you're achieving those?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if I have a certain goal, I try to make the goal itself clear, as far as clear enough where it's like a yes or a no. Did I do this or not? Because if I have a goal detached from the outcome, I can't really be like, how do I know if I did that? What I can do though is say like, okay, my revenue goal is blank, or my target for the time I spend on blank, or the amount of pitches I send out for podcasts is blank. Like, then I'm like, okay, that's an actual thing. I could be like, did I do this? Yes or no? And then who I want to be on the journey, that's where like the belief list comes in. And that's where like my journaling comes in. And that's where like just checking, like tracking, like I said, the wins comes in. That's how I know, am I on the right track from the standpoint of mindset and what I'm believing and who I'm being while I'm trying to reach this goal. And the last thing I'll say about the goal is how do I know I'm achieving it? It's all about who you become in the process to get to the goal. So again, I want to reach my goals and I want to get there within the timeline I set, but I'm also interested in, wow, this is going to require me to achieve so many byproduct skills and things and have to do things different ways, and like who I want to be along the way to the goal. That's the point. That's like what gets me excited. And same thing with the goal. Like, it's not just about setting the goal. For example, my revenue goal is blank, but I also add to that, like, and I still want to have a balanced life, and I still want to, not be working all the time to achieve that goal. And so again, comes in, who do I want to be along the way to the goal? That is what drives me as far as like knowing if I'm on the right track or not.
So it sounds like what you're talking about here is that even though you have a really clear goal, like my revenue goal or whatever this is, that you're also not attaching your identity to the goal. You're attaching your identity to who do I want to be. And so it isn't about whether or not you hit the goal. Your identity isn't wrapped up in that. Would you agree with that? Does that sound?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that is incredibly powerful. It's so easy, I think, for our identity to get so wrapped up in the revenue goal or I know you work with a lot of health coaches, the weight goal, the this goal, that goal. And I think it's a really dangerous thing. I had this conversation with somebody recently. Like, I love my business and I love my clients. And the one thing I don't want my identity to be is just Nikki is the sales maven. Like, yes, it's cool to have that, but that can't be how I think of myself, because that can go away tomorrow. And then where does that leave me and my identity?
That is so true. I actually have like goosebumps while you're saying that, because I see that I'm also like super into my job. Like, I love it. I never understand people who are like, oh, I need to like take a load off. I need to have a drink. Like, I'm like, what? I'm just getting started, So I get that, but I've had to do the same thing where I'm like, but I also want a full life, and I want to be more than just the coach. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah. This has been such a fun conversation. Okay. So here's my next question is, what do you actually do to reach your goal? So in this idea, still keeping in mind of this facing rejection without it derailing you.
Okay. Say the question one more time.
So what do you actually do to reach the goal so that you don't allow it when rejection comes up during the process to derail you? Like, is there anything you actually do? And I feel like you've given us the answers to this, but I also just want to check and see.
Yeah, I time batch every single day. So, well, not every single day. I would say sometimes on the weekends I'm a little more relaxed, but I do like to set targets for myself so that I'm focused, because I think it can be really, when you have a lot of time on your hands and you have a big giant to-do list and it's like not batched into your day and it's just like all these things you could be doing, it's really easy to let your mind just wander and be like, oh, but maybe I'm not good enough to do this list, or like, maybe I don't know my first step, so I'm just not going to start. Or like, it's very easy to be indecisive when you're facing that. Versus when you decide, like at the beginning of the day, okay, here's when my appointments are, here's my open spaces, here's my wish list of what I'd love to do today, but here's what I think is actually going to fit in, and here's where it fits in, and here's what's aligned with my goals that needs to go on my list and all that kind of stuff. And then I decide what it's going to look like. And I've gotten better at like knowing how long certain things take me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a whole process that you'll probably have to learn if you're new to doing time batching, but it also just takes as long as you decide to give yourself. So I've started to do that, and it helps me stay very focused, because if you don't choose constraint and focus and like, here's what I'm going to actually tackle, the world and your feelings and your brain and whatever else is going on around you will be so easy to just seep in and get you derailed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's super important to just deliberately choose what you want to do today. And I also think I don't always nail this, but one of my like purpose things right now is for my outside actions to match my inner dreams and goals. And sometimes I'll be able to, like, the way that I can check in with myself is being like, I noticed like what I did yesterday, getting all spiraled in XYZ activity, was not really matching like my inner dream or goal. And so it just gives me a way to like check in and make sure I don't get too derailed, and then get back on track.
I love that. This idea of like checking in that your outside actions are matching your inner goals. I think that's fantastic. Also, I think time batching is super important. And not giving yourself so much time, right? Like you've got these big wide open spaces and you have this huge to-do list. I think it's easy to then not get anything done. Yeah. I do this a lot with clients where we're working on like, how much business development are they actually doing? And they're like, well, I block out 2 days a week for business development. Okay, but how much time do you actually spend any time during those 2 days? Like none. Okay, how about if we just block out 15 minutes a week for business development? Because at the end of the month, you'll probably have put in an hour, and that will be more than what you've done in the last 6 months, right? Like, so I love this idea of time batching and really moving towards the goal, but also checking in. Are your outside actions really matching your inner goals? I think that is, that's so good. Okay. I feel like we're complete in what you've given. There's been so much here. I think you just gave us a little masterclass in this idea of how to really think about rejection without it derailing you, and also some really actionable things that we each can do to be more effective in reaching these goals that we're setting. And really important, I think one of the most important things that you talked about is this idea of like not letting the goal be the identity. And I know those are, I'm putting my words on it, but it's the, like, who do you want to be? That's so much more important than yes, you need to have the goal, but who do you want to be along the way? That was so good. Okay. So now I just have some hopefully fun questions for you, if you're willing. Okay. So I know you talked about acknowledging your wins. So I'm really interested to ask you, how do you celebrate your wins?
Ooh, oh my gosh. Okay. This is going to sound nerdy, but like having the win itself is the reward.
Okay. That's all right.
However, I will say I like to like plan little things for myself on the weekends, like with my friends or with my family. And I would say that's one. And then I also think I'm a big like sauna person. That's kind of how I rejuvenate. So not, I don't know if I call that a celebration, but it's more like keeping myself in not burnt out.
Yeah.
Restoration is a big part of my celebrating too.
Okay. I love that. What is one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
Ooh, that is a good question too. One thing people would be surprised. Okay. Well, I would say two things. One is that I seem very extroverted, but I'm very introverted. So I can be selectively extroverted, meaning if I'm performing or if I'm doing things like this, because I love talking about this kind of stuff. But me at like a party or things like that, if I'm doing that constantly, I need to like take a couple days off. I get to this point where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just too much. So that's one of the things. And then I think the other thing is, this is a random fun fact. A long time ago, I don't know why, but they found my songs and performing. And I was asked to audition for a Kpop, finding the next Kpop band. And it was going to be a show where everybody lives together from all these different countries and has to audition in groups to become the next Kpop band. And so I randomly I think this is like right around the pandemic time or something.
Yeah.
I got asked to audition for it. And so it was like virtual. I mean, it wasn't like anything crazy. It was like virtual auditions, but I made it. I don't even know why I chose to audition for this because I have no interest in doing that, but I did it. I was like, what the heck, why not? And I made it a couple rounds, but my story wasn't big enough and dramatic enough to be able to be on the show. Thank gosh, which I'm happy about. But they were like, really trying to fish for like, were you abused? Were you bullied? Were you like all this, and thank gosh, I've lived a great life. But it's really something you'll learn is on all these shows, they really have to have you have a story that's dramatic to be on it.
That is so interesting and so fun. So fun to learn that. Thank you for sharing that. Cause I don't know if you shared that very much, but that's so fun.
No, I don't think I've ever shared that on a podcast.
Wow. I love that so much. Okay. So my next question is, what's something exciting going on in your business right now?
Ooh, okay. So I would say I'm gearing up to do ads again. And that's exciting to me because I took a little pause. Yeah. And now I'm getting back on the rodeo. So that's exciting. Also, the Zero to Hero Coach Inner Circle has gotten to such an amazing group of clients that I just love right now. And I love this program because it started with something very different than what it's evolved into today. So I'm just kind of enjoying that and just like letting all of that abundance in and the community that has been built. I freaking love that. And then I'd also say what's exciting is just being at a point now where I feel like I am one of I'm recognized in my field almost like, and I don't know if that sounds cocky or anything.
No.
I'm sure there's a million different people who do the same thing as me, but I feel like it's been so many years up to this point where, I was just kind of like one of the many. And now I feel like there's a couple of us that we are in the know or something. So I'm excited to be at that place.
That's amazing. And congratulations. And I'm sure it's well deserved.
Thank you.
All right. So the last question is, how can somebody listening right now connect with you? What's the best way?
Yeah. So I would say the Health Coach Nation podcast, of course, because Nikki's going to be a guest. And the Health Coach Nation Facebook group. So it's open to all types of coaches. It's at facebook.com/group/Health Coach Nation. And I also have a free gift for your audience if they want it.
Awesome.
It's my superhero sales journal, and it will help you if you really struggle with rejection and or overwhelm and knowing like, what can I focus on to get my next sale? It's a couple prompts. So, at the beginning of this, we talked about journaling and beliefs and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. These questions were questions I used when I was going towards my first 6 figures in my business. And it'll just get you more focused on like, okay, where do I start as somebody new who wants to really get those clients? So I'll send you the link to that. And other than that, HaileyRowe.com.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm so honored that you shared what you shared with us. And it's really fun to have this conversation with you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It was so fun.
Yeah. Okay. And for you, the listener, thank you so much for showing up and taking part. And hey, if we haven't connected yet on social media, let's do that. And I would love to hear what your biggest takeaway was from what Hailey shared today. All right. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.